Alright class, today we're talking about angles of rotation and reference angles. First thing is, if you look to your right, you have a picture. The initial ray is on the x-axis, and the vertex we're going to put at 0, 0, or the origin. If we have an angle that opens counterclockwise, we say that has a positive measure. Now, in your note sheet, you might have one where it says counterclockwise again. Just cross that out. It should just say clockwise, and clockwise has a negative measure. Direction is indicated by an arrow. An arrow. Alright, so let's do a couple examples here. So 45 degrees is halfway between 0 and 90, so it looks something like this. That's 45 degrees. Negative 100 is a little bit more, and negative means you're going clockwise, so it goes like that. So that's negative 100 degrees. Positive 345 is almost all the way around. There's the arrow. That's 345 degrees. Okay, so that's how you do that in degrees. In radians, it's the same thing. I always like to think of it in terms of my fractions. 5/4 is more than a pi, and you have to remember that pi is equal to 180. So if I go, and pi over 4 is 45 degrees, because if you cut the semicircle into fourths, you get all that. You get 1, 2, 3, 4. So a fourth is 45 degrees. So I'm going to go here, which is 4/4, and then another fourth. Now, if you're not good with fractions yet, you can always convert that by multiplying by 180 and dividing by pi to figure out what it is. And if you do that, you should get 225. Negative pi over 6 is negative, and pi over 6 is just 180 divided by 6, or 30 degrees. And 2 pi over 3 is not quite 3 pi over 3, but it's more than a half, which is 90 degrees. So it's somewhere over there. Okay, so that is just graphing. Okay, go clockwise when it is negative, and go counterclockwise when it's positive. And if you need to convert, you can. Now, 400 degrees is more than 360, so I go 360 around, and then I go another 40. So this will be 400 degrees. 19 pi over 4. The way I do these again is fractions. Every 4/4 is 1 full pi, which is half a circle. So that's 4/4, 8/4, 12, 16, 17, 18, 19 fourths. And there we are. 19 pi over 4. Again, you could always check by changing it to degrees to look at what that is. But again, I like to just work in radians because it's easier for me that way. Well, you can also get this into a mixed number and realize that this is like 8 and a pi over a third. So we're going 8 pi's. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then a third. So it looks like that. So that's negative 25 pi over 3. Okay, so that's how you graph those. A reference angle is an acute or right angle, by the way, or right, we'll say, because we can have a 90-degree reference, we'll say it, formed by the terminal ray and the x-axis. We are always going to say that it's positive since it's a reference. Okay? So, if I look at each quadrant, and I say I have an angle here, the reference angle would also be in here. So it's the same thing as the angle. Alright? In quadrant 2, if this is my angle, the reference is from the end of the angle to here. It's, again, the closest way to the x-axis. Okay? In quadrant 3, the reference angle is just this angle right here. It's 180 minus the answer that you're at, and it'll give you the remaining. And in quadrant 4, The reference again is from the end to back to the x-axis, the closest way. So this would be your reference. So that is the 4 different ways. So in quadrant 1, it's the same thing as the angle itself. Quadrant 2, it's just whatever gets you to 180. Quadrant 3 is subtract 180 from your answer. And quadrant 4, subtract 360 from your answer. Alright, so let's do a couple of these. Here's what I want you to do. First, sketch it. 165 is about there. The reference is what is left here, which would be 15 degrees. And then the equivalence is for the angle, not the reference, so the angle measure. So I want to turn 165 degrees into radians. So you type in just 165 divided by 180 and math frac that, and I think you get 11/12, and you do. 11 pi over 12. Okay, the reference should always match the angle in terms of degrees versus radians. So in this one, I want a reference of radians. But it actually makes sense. It works better to stay in radians. 7/6 is 1 and a 1/6. So there's 1 pi and then a 1/6. Which also is nice because that tells you what was the reference angle. We went 1 extra pi over 6 past the line. So we didn't have to actually convert anything there. And if you convert 7 pi over 6 and multiply by 180 over pi, you get 210. Okay. Alright, so the next one, negative 527. Is you have to do some math there. So 527 minus 360, you have another 167 left after you go all the way around. So, but I'm going in the negative direction. So there's the full 360. Now I need 167 more, which is almost 180. So that is negative 527 degrees. The reference is what gets us to here. Well, if we went 167, we need 13 degrees more to get to 180. And if you convert this one, it actually does not convert nicely. So the fraction would just be that. Multiply by pi and then divide by 180, and that's what it stays as. Alright, last one of these. Negative 11 pi over 3. So again, 3 pi over 3, 6 pi over 3, 9 pi over 3, 10, 11 pi over 3 gets you to here. And to get us to the edge, so to reference that, that should be an 11. To get us there, we need 1 more pi over 3 to complete the circle, so our reference is just a pi over 3. Alright, so then you convert 11 pi over 3 negative times 180 over pi. So that's, I believe, 180 divided by 3 is 60, negative 660 degrees. Alright, so that is doing all those. That's pretty much your homework. 2 more things for this lesson. 1, what coterminal means. Basically, it means it ends up in the same spot. It just might, they have the same terminal ray. So, for example, 90 degrees goes here. And if I do 450, I go all the way around once to 360. And then do another 90. So 450 degrees also is there. So that is what that means. Okay, the last thing is a calculator thing. My calculator is not working real well on here, so if you have questions you can ask me in class, but I'll tell you how to do these things. So you need to have your mode to degrees. So when you hit the mode button, you have to change it to degrees. Okay. For rounding, for degrees, minutes, seconds, round to the nearest second, and if it's just decimals, round to the nearest thousandth. So this is in degrees, minutes, seconds. We want to go to a decimal. So here's what you do. Everything pretty much is either in second and then apps. So if you hit that on your calculator right now, you should have these options. I don't know what 3 is, but 3 doesn't matter. Okay. And then the problem is, so that gives us the symbol for the degrees and the minutes, but not the seconds. To get the seconds, you get alpha, and then hit the plus key, and that'll give you the seconds. Okay, so here's what you want to do. Literally on your home screen, type in the number 35. Then what you want to do is hit the second apps button, and then hit number 1 to get the degree symbol. So you're literally typing it in so it looks like this on your home screen. Now we're going to type in a 42. We are going to go back to second apps and get that, the minute, and you do that. And then the last thing is you type in 18 and then hit alpha plus, and you get your seconds. And when you type all this in, so it should look like this, you get 35, if you're in the right mode, 0.705 degrees. So that is how you convert those. Okay? So all these are calculator button pushers that you can try on your own. If you want to pause it here before I answer all the other ones. For example, this one right here is just 59.296 degrees. And then note this one. There's no minutes, but you can't enter it in the calculator without minutes, so you have to put 0 minutes. Alright, so you have to do that. If you don't do that, you know, it'll give you an error, and then you won't be able to do that, and then you won't know what's going on. Okay, so the last one is 79.009 degrees. Alright, so to go backwards, it's pretty easy. You just type this in. You don't even need the degree symbol because we're in degrees. You type that in, and then you do the second apps thing and pick number 4. And you just say you want it to become degrees, minutes, seconds. So if you type in 126.596, hit second apps, and then go down to 4, and hit enter, it's almost like math frac. This turns into 126 degrees, 35 minutes. 45.6 goes up to 46 seconds. Okay? So this one, since it's half, I could actually just do that without typing it in. Degrees. Half of a degree is 30 minutes and 0 seconds. Okay? So that's all you have to do for these. This one turns into 25 degrees, 17 minutes, 49 seconds. So try to get those. If you are not getting them on your calculator, just show up tomorrow or the next day and I'll help you out with those. Okay? Alright, you guys should be good enough then to do worksheet 2.